Hi everybody, this is Aunt Bibi in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada, right on the border with Washington State. And I'm looking out at Mount Baker, beautiful Mount Baker, just across the border. It's a dormant volcano. And today, there's a lot of traffic on this road. I hope you can hear me. Today, I'm at the oldest Sikh temple in the Western Hemisphere, the oldest Sikh temple in North America, the Gursikh temple, or it's Gurdwara is the word for temple, which means the guru's doorway or door to the guru. And guru is just a teacher. It comes from Hinduism, which is where Sikhism originated. And so a Sikh is simply a disciple or learner. And so the Sikhs are have an interesting story, and it's kind of the story of the British Empire and the era, the old era of globalization, but we're now in the new era of globalization. So they're about, this temple was built in 1911, and so it's over 100 years old. And some local Sikh workers who worked in the lumber industry, the forestry industry, they actually carried the lumber for this temple on their backs from a local mill not too far away. So there are only about 25 million Sikhs in the world, and most of them, 20 million of them, are in India. And they're a significant minority in Canada, and most people in Canada, they have a rough idea who the Sikhs are, what the Sikh religion is. They know they're not Muslims. They don't mistake them for Muslims. In the US, it's a little different. People aren't as familiar with the Sikh religion or Sikhs. So they have been mistaken for Muslims and attacked when there's anti-Muslim sentiment, like after 9/11. And so the Sikhs have suffered a lot of persecution over the years, starting when their religion was founded. The original Guru Nanak, he was a Hindu, and he had a Muslim friend as a boy, and he was interested in the religion. So he had a revelation one day, and he said there are no Muslims, there are no Hindus, and he just saw everyone as one. And so that was a revolutionary sort of idea. And but the Mughal emperors were always trying to control things, and they didn't like the Sikhs, and they often persecuted them in the worst ways. It's pretty bad what they went through. I'm also right across the street from a working temple. I think this is just a museum, and so there are quite a few temples, Sikh temples in the area, and there's a modern one just across the street. It's interesting that the British in India, they used the old divide and conquer tactic to control people in India. So they kept the different sects at odds against each other, or they tried to, the Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh. And so I know there was an uprising in the mid-19th century where the Muslims and the Hindus united against the British. And so that rebellion was squashed. And that's when the British realized, oh, we've got to divide these people. They can't be united against us. So, and the Sikhs bore the brunt of a lot of British rule. They were pretty loyal to the empire. They fought in large numbers in World War I, and even in World War II. But they weren't treated very well. Right after World War I, there was a big massacre in Amritsar. There was a gathering of Sikhs. It was a holiday, but there were also some protesters, peaceful protesters, and the British just opened fire on them, and they blocked the exits to the park, and there were hundreds killed. They think maybe even over 1,000 were killed. And that was the Amritsar massacre of 1919. And then in 1984, this idea of keeping the communities divided was what the British did when India was partitioned. They were really reluctant to let go of India. That was the jewel in the crown. But the only way they would let India become independent is if it was split up between a Hindu state and a Muslim state. And so today we have India and Pakistan, and there were, I think there was maybe 1 million people killed during the partition of India. And so the Sikhs, they fled the Pakistani part of Punjab, Punjab is the state where the Sikhs are predominant. So the Punjab was divided, and so the Sikhs from the Pakistani side, they fled to the Hindu side because the Hindus were more tolerant, I guess, of the Sikhs. And in 1984, Indira Gandhi's government, they were decided they were going to crack down on Sikh separatism and extremism, and so they raided the Golden Temple in Amritsar. Hold on. So they raided the Golden Temple, the sacred temple for the Sikhs in Amritsar. And so they did find the extremists, the separatists, but they also killed a lot of innocent people who were simply at the temple to, pray or worship. And then right after that, Indira Gandhi was assassinated. And then there were even more massacres of innocent Sikhs in India. And so every year the Sikh community here, they commemorate that 1984 massacre, and they hold a big blood drive, to get people to donate blood in memory of the people who died. And so the British really like to keep people divided to control them, and they've done this in other areas. I know they did this in Ireland, that the Irish, the Catholics and the Protestants, they weren't really divided. They intermarried all the time. So and so Ireland is still divided, and that's the way the British do things. So there's a lot to the Sikh religion. It's very interesting. They rejected the caste system. And everybody's equal. In theory, everybody's equal. Men and women are equal, and so they've gotten that from Islam. There's that sense of equality in Islam, in theory, and but they've kept the Hindu idea of reincarnation and karma, and so they. Also, I've been to some Punjabi movies that kind of talk about the persecution of the Sikhs, and I've noticed that when they're talking, you'll hear Allah or Inshallah, God willing. So they've borrowed that from Islam, the Arabic for God and God willing. So there's a lot more I could tell you about the Sikhs, but I will just leave it at that. I'll probably go to another Sikh temple sometime. There's so many around here, and some of them are quite pretty. So there's a lot of history about the Sikhs, but I just wanted to make a point about the British Empire, British rule, and globalization, how they like to exploit people and control people, divide people. And it kind of reminds me of Scott Creighton's video today. I already had this video in mind, but he was talking about how there's this Islamophobia and this fear that's been created about Muslims, and the people who are pushing that narrative are very corrupt and questionable. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. So it's a very pretty place here. Nice park. I'm going to come back and check out the museum itself. So there's a scene here. If you're wondering what this statue, this is a lot of interesting stories from the Sikh history. And so there's this fellow, he was going out in the battlefields where the Sikhs were battling the armies of the Mughal rulers, and this guy with the water, he was giving water to both the Muslims and the Sikhs, and so there were complaints about it. He's a Sikh giving water to Muslims, but the guru, the last guru, Sikh guru, Gobind Singh, he approved of it, and he said, yeah, that's what Sikh religion is about, is everybody, treating everybody the same, not distinguishing between Sikh or Muslim. So sadly, the British don't understand that. So anyway, I'll call it a day. Talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.